Let's get on to politics on your election headquarters. Dr. Bawumia's campaign has gained momentum as the National Executive Committee of the New Patriotic Party has finalized 30 individuals to fight for power in the December elections. Key figures in the campaign team include former ministers Nan Bochi, Dominic Nitiwo, former flag bearer hopeful engineer Kwabena Ejapon and Hawa Kumsin. The announcement was after a closed-door meeting between the National Executive Committee and the National Council of the party. General Secretary Justin Frimpong Kodia made the official announcement.
We will have the National Chairman, the former President J. Kufuor, President Nana Akufo-Addo, Chairman and members of the National Council of Elders, former National Chairman Mr. Freddie Blay, Madam Elizabeth Ohene, Reverend Joyce Ayi, and Madam Akusia Frima Osei Pari as campaign or as members of the Campaign Advisory Committee. The General Secretary of the party will be in charge of the campaign operations. And the wings of the party, the volunteer groups, the identifiable groups, the persons with disability desks will all be under operations to be headed by the General Secretary and deputized by the national organizer, Henry Nana Boakye. The campaign strategist and campaign chairman, there's a difference between the flag bearer position. Flag bearer is the overall chairman for the campaign coordinating committee. But the campaign chairman and strategist will be Honorable Dambuchi, former General Secretary and NPP for Okre. The campaign, we have two campaign vice chairpersons, Mr. Fred Owari and Nana Akomia as the two campaign vice chairpersons. We have Honorable Frederick Opariansa as the campaign manager for the 2024 elections, and he will have 3 deputies. For deputy campaign manager in charge of research and administration is Dr. Antoinette Thibault Dakon. Deputy campaign manager for parliamentary campaign will be Honorable Obi Amwa, MP for Kriapem South. Then deputy campaign manager in charge of presidential campaign will be Dr. Ibrahim Anyas. For electoral affairs committee, it will be headed by Chairman Peter McMenu as the chairman for the Electoral Affairs Committee of Campaign 2024.
Meanwhile, the National Executive Committee of the NPP has set up a 3-member committee on the Yendi parliamentary elections. Justin Kodia again.
On Yendi, the National Executive Committee took a decision and has given the matter to a 3-member committee to communicate the decision of the National Executive Committee to all interested parties. And once they communicate the matter to them, and whatever decision that has been taken will further be communicated to our friends from the media. But we feel that we need to speak to the parties first before we come out with the decision of the National Executive Committee. Then again, the National Executive Committee also took the opportunity to reiterate that per our rules and regulations, we said that in constituencies where we don't have certain members of parliament, in the rules and regulations, officers were to recuse themselves from their various positions. And after the elections, they will assume their positions. That rule still stands.
I've been joined by Professor Kobe Mensah, who is a political marketing strategist and a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. The last time we gauged your mood in terms of branding, whether Bawumia's message will resonate with the people. We said that you had a problem with the fact that he took the credits for the positives in Akufo-Addo's government and actually tried to distance himself from the negatives of Akufo-Addo's government. How can the campaign team leverage on this brand of Dr. Bawumia?
Aisha, thanks very much for having me. I think, firstly, you would say that whenever a campaign is actually instituted, you would want to look at where you can draw strength from. Obviously, from the candidate's own profiling, from the party's own profile, of course, and from the policies that the campaign would set up. So you're looking at these three and where your strength can actually come from. I think that currently, as most people would agree with me, the candidacy of Dr. Bawumia is a little bit challenged because of the previous, positions that he's held, and of course, people don't seem to have actually kept through to those ones. So I suppose the campaign will be drawing mostly from the strength of the policies that they want to put forward. Of course, a little bit from the party's own strength, and that's why you see at the lineup of the old and the new, you'd see that they have prominently positioned former President, Kufuor and the current President Nana Addo with other statesmen, in the campaign hierarchy. That is the superstructure. That is actually demonstrating a certain united front, so that not mentioning some huge, figures in the party could send a signal of disunity. So they have to actually make sure that they mention these individuals as a campaign advisors to sort of serve as a superstructure. So for me, I think that the campaign will very much draw on the party's strength and the strength of the proposed policies, much more than what they would from the candidate itself, because the candidate lacks a certain level of credibility in the eyes of the Ghanaians. And so they would want to draw strength from the other two Ps.
You have like giants like former President Kufuor. You have the president himself as an advisor. You have Peter McMahon. We all know the kind of work he did for the NPP to get the NPP into power. You have people like Dan Kweku-Botwe. Are these people? Is this a team that should send shivers down the spine of their major opponent, the NDC?
Well, you could say that. I'm not sure whether it will send them shivers, but of course, this is a very powerful team. I mean, if you look at Dan Botwe, for example, he had been part and parcel of Kufuor's successes in 2000, obviously 2004. If you look at McMahon, consummate expert within the field of campaigning and, of course, election matters. Of course, you have, the two key figures, former President, Kufuor, and then, of course, the current president serving as the top of the advisory unit. And then, of course, you have other, notable individuals. So clearly, it tells you a certain closing of the ranks. If anybody had doubts that perhaps the party was somehow broken, this announcement sort of demonstrates that they are quite united within, at least from the symbolism perspective. So no doubt the personalities mentioned in the campaign team, very, very strong. Of course, it would then come back to operations, implementation of the strategy. And then, of course, the strategy itself that they would actually leverage. My inkling is that they will leverage a lot more on the policy proposal. They look at it as forward-looking. And then, of course, on the party's strength, so that the party could actually gather every necessary vote that their strength can actually pull. Very much draw down on the campaign, on the presidential candidate and its strength, I think.
Professor Kobe-Mensah, I'm grateful for your time. As we gear up to the 2024 elections, definitely we'll see how this pans out. The NDC is also yet to announce its campaign team. Then we can do a proper comparison of the two major political parties. Thank you, Professor Kobe-Mensah, for your time. Let's